Welcome to Sculpting Thoughts Syntax Series. So today I'm going to be talking about syntax, and no, I'm not talking about what your 8th grade teacher told you was wrong or right to write in a paper, but rather the scientific study of structure in language. So what is syntax, or grammar if you'd like? In linguistics we call it syntax, but it's the study of how sentences work. It's one of the most central and vital areas of linguistic analysis, and one of the basic questions is how sentences are arranged and how words are shaped and formed. So there's two areas of syntactic analysis. One is syntactic description, and the second is syntactic theory. For the case of this video, I'm going to be talking about syntactic description, and later I will get to syntactic theory, but for this I'm not taking any theoretical background, just talking about the phenomena that are going on and that have been found. So what is syntactic description? It's one of the two major types of work in syntax. It asks what are the structural properties of particular sentence types within particular languages. And theory-wise, if we were going to go over theory, then that's more asking of why do sentences have particular properties that they do, and where do they come from? But later we'll go over that. For now, I'm just going to do a quick introduction to this, and I'm going to do a whole series on this. So we'll start with a little teaser that has to do with, that'll get us to verbs, and we'll start there. So one of the basic questions in syntactic description and syntactic theory is this: are languages fundamentally alike in their syntax, or are they fundamentally different? And as you'll see throughout the videos, sometimes that's hard to tell. They can be both alike and different at the same time. They both have something, but they apply it in different ways, and that can be in case, agreement, all sorts of things. But one of the basic assumptions of virtually all work in the field is that there's enough similarities among subsets of words in any language to justify organizing them into a relatively small number of syntactically relevant categories, such as nouns or verbs or adjectives. These are also known as grammatical categories, or parts of speech, and we'll get to that in a second, where that falls. It has been claimed that some languages, words have no inherent category at all. Rather, they start out as open free roots, or category-free root languages. And each word would take a category depending on the use in a particular sentence. In these languages, the same word can be typically be used as a noun or a verb depending on its role in the sentence. So now I want to break it down into different categories, and what we're going to need to do through these videos is kind of develop a vocabulary that's capable of bearing the burden of the concepts that we're talking about, because a lot of these concepts are extraordinarily abstract. What we'll have to do is develop a vocabulary that's capable of bearing that load. So to begin with, there are syntactic categories, thematic roles, grammatical relations, and all of these can be put on the same level, and they're analyzing different things. So we'll start with the syntactic roles. That would include things like nouns, verbs, adjectives, and you've probably heard of things like this. You definitely have, but maybe not in the way that I'm going to talk about it. All languages have some types of these, but they don't have to have all of them. Some languages don't have verbs specifically or adjectives. They might have adjectival verbs, and that's different. Those are claiming different things, and I'll talk about that when I get to adjectival verbs. But verbs are like this. So they can occur with tense, aspect, or modality markings, as expressed by auxiliary verbs and or inflection. Events, including actions or processes. And then I said inflection. So what inflection is it's the change of the form of the word to indicate grammatical information such as tense or number, or sometimes case and the like. So verbs can be talking about different things. It can be talking about states, achievements, activities, accomplishments, and those are that's just one of the ways to subcategorize it. And so I've talked about tense a little bit, aspect a little bit. I've mentioned those words. And so what do those mean? So these are called TAM markings, or tense, aspect, modality, TAM. And when we're talking about tense in a language, we're talking about is past, present, and future. And there are other things as well, but that's what we're generally talking about. Second, we're going to be talking about aspect. And what aspect is maybe something that you're not as familiar with. You might have heard of tense, or you probably heard of tense definitely from taking a language class in high school or something like that, or just thinking about it itself. But aspect is a little bit different. We don't really hear about that one as much. And some languages don't have tense, they only have aspect, like Mandarin only has aspect. So aspect tells us if it's completed or not. So that's like perfective, and you might have heard of that, like the perfective case or something like that. Ongoing, so it can be completed, ongoing, or habitual. So ongoing is continuative or progressive, and then habitual is that it's going on over and over again, still occurring, but maybe not that it's continuous. And lastly, of the TAM markings, there is modality. So modality markings indicate possibility, probability, obligation, or levels of obligation. And a lot of these in TAM markings, they can be done with inflection, like I said earlier, but it can also be done with auxiliary verbs, things like be, do, have, can, will. Those are all auxiliary verbs, and their primary purpose is to encode TAM-related information. Contrasts involving tense, aspect, modality are often expressed with the use of, or with the help of auxiliary verbs. So today was just a little introduction to syntactic description, and I'm going to be doing more. I'm going to be going over grammatical relations and thematic roles, as well as things like case and agreement as well. Most of this study was, or most of these videos will be based on a class that I took called Syntactic Description, and then other readings that I've done afterwards. But I hope this is helpful for anybody that's interested in syntax, and I will be posting these periodically, and hopefully over the next few months to maybe 6 months, I'll have several posted, and maybe give you a bigger picture of syntactic description. After I go over syntactic description, then I'll start syntactic theory, but I think it's important to first have a vocabulary that's capable of understanding these before we get into theory that's talking about certain claims with universal grammar or usage-based things. First, I think we need to have an agreed upon vocabulary just to talk about these. So in my descriptions, I won't be taking any theoretical perspective, and if you have any questions, just ask below, and I'll try to get back to you when I can.